Let me ask you something. Have you ever said, I'm stuck, I'm broken, I can't? Because the moment you said it, your body believed it. Words are not just sounds, they're commands to your nervous system. They shape how you feel, what you believe, and ultimately what you do. And if you keep speaking the language of limitation, guess what? You build a life of limitation. But when you shift your language, when you speak with power, with purpose, you don't just change how you feel, you change your entire world. So let's change it now. Who are you really? You might say your name, your job title, your past, your pain. But let me tell you something raw and real. The answer to who you are lives in the words you speak every single day. Your identity isn't carved in stone. It's not genetic. It's not locked in by your childhood. Your identity is a pattern, and the language you use is the code that writes that pattern again and again. The most powerful force in the human psyche is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. So if you keep saying, I'm tired, I'm unlucky, I'm not good at relationships, I'm always broke, guess what? Your brain locks that in as truth, and you act from it, live from it, and suffer because of it. See, your words become the software of your soul. You speak them enough, and they become a script you play on repeat unconsciously. You act like it's fact, but it started with language. And here's the kicker. Most people don't even realize they're hypnotizing themselves with their own vocabulary. They say, this is just who I am. No, it's not. It's who you keep saying you are. The moment you change the story, the result, when you upgrade your words, you upgrade your life. And if you want to create a breakthrough, you have to first disrupt the language of your current identity. Let me give you a real example. I had a man come to one of my seminars who said, Tony, I'm just a procrastinator. I've always been that way. It's who I am. I looked him in the eye and said, stop that. You're not a procrastinator. That's just a behavior you've reinforced by repeating the same identity over and over. You're not born with that label. You claimed it. And because you claimed it, now your brain filters every situation through it. And that's what most people do. They label themselves. I'm anxious. I'm damaged. I'm a failure. I'm shy. I'm a screw up. I'm not enough. And those words stick like glue to their identity. But the truth is, it's a lie they've believed long enough to sound like truth. Here's the secret. You can choose different words. Right now, you can decide that. I'm becoming stronger. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm powerful. I'm focused. I'm unstoppable. And your brain, your incredible, powerful brain, will begin to find evidence to support new identity. It will align your emotions and behaviors with those new words. Not because it's magic, but because that's how the human mind works. It seeks alignment. It seeks truth. And you create that truth through repetition. Think about this. If you constantly call yourself a failure, your body slumps, your breath shortens, and your spirit shortens. But if you speak life into yourself, say, I'm resilient. I'm built for this. I'm the kind of person who figures things out. Everything changes. Your shoulders rise. Your energy shifts. You stand up straighter. You move differently. Because language doesn't just reflect your identity, it creates it. You want to reinvent yourself. Don't just change your clothes, your job, or your friends. Change your language. That's where the transformation starts. And this isn't about lying to yourself. It's about reclaiming your power to define who you are. It's about realizing that every time you say, I am, what follows is shaping your destiny. That's not a small thing. That's everything. When you say, I am disciplined, I am focused, I am a leader, even if you don't feel it yet, you are planting seeds of transformation. Keep saying it, keep feeling it, keep acting on it, and eventually those words become your new standard, your new identity, your new reality. Most people are walking around with a vocabulary of limitation, and they wonder why they feel stuck. They don't realize that language is not just a tool to describe reality. It's a tool to build it. And if you want to build something extraordinary, you've got to start using extraordinary language. Speak as if your life depends on it, because it does. Speak as the person you want to become. And soon enough, you'll become it. Because when you change your words, you don't just shift your mindset. You don't just feel better. You don't just think better. You become better. You become who you were always meant to be. That's the power of language. That's the power of identity. And that's how you begin to change your world. From the inside out, every word you speak carries a charge, a vibration that sends signals through your nervous system. And the truth is, most people are completely unconscious of the emotional power their words have. You say something simple like, I'm overwhelmed, and suddenly your chest tightens, your breath shortens, and you feel paralyzed. But change that one word to, I'm busy but focused, and instantly everything shifts. You still have a full plate, but now you're empowered. That's not coincidence. That's the emotional weight of language. Words are more than communication. They are emotional commands. They are activators. You say, I'm devastated, and you feel broken. You say, I'm pissed off, and your blood starts to boil. But say, I'm a little bit frustrated, and you stay in control. The shift seems small, but it's everything, because emotion is what drives behavior. It's not logic. It's not intelligence. It's emotion. So if your words are creating high-intensity negative emotions, what kind of action are you going to take? Poor, reactive, destructive action. And if your words are fueling empowering emotions, now you're in a peak state where you make powerful decisions. You want to change your life. Don't just change your thoughts. Upgrade your emotional vocabulary. You see, people say, I'm angry. But what they really mean is, I'm annoyed. But they use extreme language, and their body responds in extreme ways. That becomes their experience. That becomes their world. One woman I worked with used to say, I feel violated every time someone cut in front of her in traffic or disagreed with her opinion. Think about "lated." That's a word loaded with trauma, loaded with pain, and she was using it to describe everyday life. Of course, she was walking around emotionally exhausted. Her words were constantly triggering survival responses in her nervous system. What if you could learn to lower the emotional intensity of negative experiences and raise the intensity of positive ones? Just by shifting your words, you can, it's that powerful. Let me show you how. Instead of saying, I'm terrified, you say, I'm a little nervous but excited. Instead of saying, I'm furious, you say, I'm mildly annoyed and choosing calm. Instead of saying, I'm depressed, you say, I'm feeling low energy and ready for a breakthrough. These aren't tricks. These are power tools, because the meaning you give an experience equals the emotion you feel, and that meaning is created through words. If your emotional state determines your energy, and your energy determines your action, then words are the ignition. Every time you speak, you're choosing to either ignite a fire of possibility or a fire of destruction. And it's a choice. People say, but Tony, I'm just being real. No, you're not. You're being habitual. You're running the same emotional patterns because you've trained yourself through language to feel a certain way. But you can train yourself differently right now. Today, this minute, you can create a new emotional home just by changing the words you live in. Instead of saying, this is the worst, say, this is challenging and I've got this. Instead of saying, nobody understands me, say, I'm learning to communicate better. That's not denial. That's leadership, emotional leadership. That's taking ownership of how you feel and choosing language that fuels you instead of drains you. And I want you to think about the people you admire most. Do they speak in the language of defeat, of despair, of constant drama? No, they use the language of strength, clarity, momentum, vision, and you can too. Right now, you can start upgrading your emotional triggers with powerful words. Because when you change the words you attach to your experience, you change the experience itself. Your brain literally rewires. Your body responds. Your future is redirected. Look, if you've been saying, I'm stuck, or I'm done, or I'm failing, that language has become your emotional reality. And it's time to destroy that here, right now. Replace it with, I'm evolving. I'm learning. I'm becoming who I need to be. You don't have to fake it. You just have to reframe it, because your words don't just describe your emotional state, they decide it. So speak as a leader of your life. Speak with the fire of someone who refuses to be a prisoner of weak language. Speak the words that awaken courage, ignite passion, create connection, and drive action. Because in the end, the world you live in emotionally is built word by word. Change your words. And you don't just feel different, you become unstoppable. Let me tell you something that most people never realize until it's too late. The most powerful conversation you'll ever have is the one you're having with yourself right now. That voice in your head, the one narrating your day, judging your actions, interpreting your worth. It's not background noise. It's the architect of your life. It's either building you brick by brick, or it's tearing you down silently and consistently. And the dangerous part is, it's always on. You don't get to shut it off, but you do get to control it. And if you don't take command of that inner voice, it will run wild and run your life into the ground. Most people wake up and the first thought they have is something like, I'm tired. I'm not enough. I can't do this. Or, why even try? And they don't question it. They accept it as truth. But it's not truth. It's habit. It's programming. It's the voice of your past, your fear, your self-doubt pretending to be your identity. But it's not who you are. It's just who you've allowed to speak the loudest. Let me ask you, would you ever let someone talk to your child, your partner, your best friend, the way you talk to yourself? Would you let someone say, you're pathetic, you always mess up, you'll never be enough? No way. You'd fight back. You'd stand up. You'd protect them. So why don't you protect yourself from you? Why do you give that cruel inner voice a microphone? Because no one taught you that you could turn it off. No one showed you that you could rewire it, but you can. That inner dialogue, that loop of thoughts, creates your emotional home. Some people live in anxiety. Some live in anger. Some live in helplessness. Why? Because that's where their inner voice keeps bringing them back. It's the familiar language, the safe script, even if it's destructive. And you will always return to your emotional home unless you consciously break the cycle. And it starts with language. Change the script, change the setting, change the words, change the world inside. When you shift your inner dialogue from, I'm a failure, to, I'm figuring it out, everything changes. Your energy lifts, your hope returns, your body responds, because the body doesn't know the difference between reality and what your brain imagines. So when your inner voice is painting disaster, your nervous system reacts with stress, fear, paralysis. But when that voice starts speaking possibility, belief, resilience, your body follows suit. You breathe deeper. You stand taller. You move differently. And that shift, that's the beginning of transformation. People ask me all the time, Tony, how do I develop confidence? And I tell them, confidence isn't about knowing everything or never failing. It's about building a relationship with yourself that's rooted in trust. And that trust is built through your words. When your inner voice starts saying, I've got this, I don't quit, I can figure anything out, you begin to believe it. Because repetition is the mother of mastery. Keep feeding your mind with empowering language, and it will eventually accept it as your new truth. But you've got to be intentional, because your mind is like a garden. If you don't plant something powerful, something toxic will grow on its own. And it starts with that first moment in the morning. Don't let your mind go on autopilot. You wake up and say, today I lead to, today I choose progress. Today I'm in control. You don't have to feel it fully at first, but you say it and say it and say it until the feeling catches up. That's how leaders are built. That's how champions are made. Not by chance, not by luck, but by conscious, consistent, courageous inner language. And the truth is, you're always one conversation away from changing your life, and that conversation is the one you have with yourself. That voice in your head can be your greatest enemy or your greatest coach. It can destroy your dreams or drive you toward them. But you've got to decide, you've got to step into the power of awareness and take back the microphone from that voice that's been lying to you for years. Because it's not your truth. It's your pattern. And patterns can be broken right here, right now. Start speaking to yourself like someone you believe in, like someone you're proud of, like someone who's been through hell and is still standing, because you have. And you are. And you're just getting started. If you want to transform your life, and I mean truly, permanently change it from the inside out, you don't start with your habits, your job, or your environment. You start with your language, because language is not just a form of communication. It's the steering wheel of your consciousness. It's the tool that shapes your focus, your beliefs, your emotions, and ultimately your behavior. The words you use create the lens through which you experience the world. And if your lens is covered in fear, doubt, and limitation, no matter how bright your future is, you'll never see it clearly. You see, most people walk through life using the language of survival, not the language of power. They say things like, I hope things change, I'll try, someday I'll get there, it's too hard, or that's just how I am. And they don't realize that those soft, passive words are scripting their entire destiny. Hope is not a strategy. Trying is not commitment. Saying someday is the same as saying never. You want a different result? You need a different level of language. You need the language of transformation. When you say, I must, instead of I should, everything changes. Should is weak, is optional. But must creates urgency. It creates necessity. You don't do what you should do in life. You do what you must. And that word alone, must, transforms priorities into non-negotiables. It takes a desire and turns it into a decision. And decisions shape destiny. So you've got to decide what kind of language you're willing to live in. The language of excuses or the language of action. I've met people who transformed their entire identity with one shift in language. A man told me, Tony, I'm an addict. I've always been. I said, no, you are someone who struggled. Now you're someone who conquers. Start saying that. Start owning that. And the moment he changed his language, his body changed. His face changed. His posture shifted. Why? Because words are power. Words carry energy. When you speak them with certainty, they become your new emotional home. And it's not just about how you speak to yourself. It's how you speak about others, your circumstances, your life. Are you using words that elevate or words that shrink? Are you describing life as boring, stressful, or are you using words like challenging, exciting, fuel for growth? Because here's the truth, language is not passive. It's not innocent. It's directional. It tells your brain where to go. Focus follows language. Emotion follows focus. Behavior follows emotion. That's the chain. Break the chain at the top and everything changes below. Think about how leaders speak. They don't say, I guess. They say, I will. They don't say, let's see what happens. They say, here's the outcome we're going to create. That kind of language doesn't just inspire people. It pulls something greater out of them. That same power is available to you right now. You can speak in a way that lifts your standard, commands your future, and magnetizes others to your vision. But you've got to practice it. You've got to live it. You've got to choose it, even when it's uncomfortable. Because let me tell you something, transformation doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in courage. And courageous language is different. It sounds like, I take full responsibility. I'm the creator of my results. I was born for more. This isn't the end of my story. It's the start of my comeback. That kind of language doesn't wait for permission. It declares possibility. And when you speak possibility, your entire nervous system comes alive with it. You literally begin to feel the future pulling you forward. So if you've been stuck, if you've been doubting, if you've been living the same loop over and over again, this is where you break it. Right here, right now. By changing your words. Not tomorrow, not when it feels perfect. But now, replace the small language with powerful declarations. Replace reaction with responsibility. Replace fear-based vocabulary with vision-based vocabulary. Stop saying, I can't, and start saying, I'm capable. Stop saying, it's hard, and start saying, it's mine to master. Speak like the person you're becoming, not the person you're leaving behind. Because every time you open your mouth, you're either reinforcing your old self or creating your new one. You're either building a cage or building a runway. And the difference is in your words. Language is your tool. Use it to shape a life that reflects your fire, your faith, your future. Change your words, and your world will never be the same.